How are you doing today? So the other day, I read part three of Dante's Purgatorio, and we are going to finish that today. My goal over this month is to finish the entire saga, and then we'll move on to something else um, later. Essentially, I'm leaving in July at the end of June. And so, yeah, I will be gone in June, and we'll pick up with whatever book we're going to read at that point. Uh, Maybe even, I think in Halloween, I either want to read um, Frankenstein or Dracula, one of those two. And I want to finish the whole story then. I don't want to be like I've been doing here. And this has been dragged out for roughly, let me see, when did we start this? Um, the beginning of May. No, yeah, basically a weekend. So if I can finish this pretty soon, we'll move on to another book. But here we are. We're a minute in. We're going to start reading this, and it's going to be fun. Yes. Okay. So we're a little over half on this section, and tomorrow we'll probably read an entire section, and we'll finish it out after that. We may even start the next section, which, what is it called? I'll go back up to the top. One moment. We'll start here in a second. Can we go to the front? Yeah, so the second one is Parasidio, or Paradise. Yeah, so here we go. I really like this book. Section 3, though, I didn't finish this one because it's kind of felt like a drag. This is definitely like the lull part of the story. And so I figure get back into it with this, finish out section 3, read section 4 and 5 tomorrow, and then we'll move on to the next. I did like section 1 and 2 of this. Those were really good. And I've liked sections of this, but a lot of it's been I feel like it's been a drag to read. All right. So, in the hour before dawn, when the day's heat lost by Earth or quenched by Saturn no longer offsets the moon's coldness, when the geomancers see their Fortuna Major formed of the last stars of Aquarius and the first of Pisces rise in the east, on a path which is only dark for a little while, a stuttering woman came to me in a dream, her eyes squinting, her feet crippled, with maimed hands, shallow aspect. I gazed at her, and my look readied her tongue and straightened her completely in a few moments, as the sun comforts the cold limbs that night weigh down, and her pale face colored as love wills. When my tongue was freed, she began to sing, so that I could hardly turn my attention away. I am, she sang, I am the sweet siren. I am so pleasing to hear that I lead seamen astray in mid ocean. With my song, I turned Ulysses from his wandering path, and whoever rests with me rarely leaves. I satisfy him so completely. Her lips had barely closed when a lady appeared near me, saintly, and ready to put up her confusion. She said angrily, O Vigil, what is this?" And he came with his eyes fixed on the honest one. He seized the siren and ripping her clothes revealed her front and showed me her belly that woke me from the stench that came from it. I turned my eyes away, and the good Virgil said, "I have called you at least 3 times. Rise and come with me. Let us find the opening by which you may climb." What's this look like? Oh, it's nice. I'm going to save that. Okay. I rose, and all the circles of the holy mountain were now filled with the high day, and we went with the new sun at our backs. I was following him with my forehead wrinkled like someone burdened by thought, and who makes half a bridge arch of his body. When I heard words spoken in so gentle and kind a voice as is not heard in this mortal world, "Come, here is the pass." I'm just going to save all that, but I think I'm not going to use all that though. He who spoke to us directed us upward between 2 walls of solid stone with his outspread wings that seemed like swans. Then he stirred his feathers and feigned us, affirming that we who mourned qui legent are blessed, whose spirits shall be richly consoled. I think I'm going to have that go with the other side too. My guide began to speak to me, both of us having climbed a little higher than the angel. "What is wrong with you, that you are always staring at the ground? And I, a strange dream that draws me towards it, so that I cannot stop thinking of it, makes me go in such dread," he said. "Did you see that ancient witch through whom alone those above us now weep? Did you see how man escapes from her? Let that be enough for you, and spurn the earth with your heels. Turn your eyes towards the lure that the king of eternity spins in the great spheres." I became like a falcon that at first is gazing at his feet, then turns at the call and spreads his wings with longing for the food that draws him towards it. And so I went as far as the rock is split and allow passage to him who climbs up to where the terrace begins. When I was in the open in the 5th circle, I saw people around it, lying on the ground, who wept, all turned face downwards. I heard them say, "Ad haste promento amania mea, my soul cleaveth unto the dust." With such deep sighing, the words were hardly understood. O God's elect, whose sufferings justice and hope make easier, direct us towards the high ascents. So the poet prayed, and so a little in front of us there was an answer. If you come longing to find the quickest way, and are safe from having to lie prostrate, let your right hand be always toward the outer edge. At that, I noted what was hidden in the words, and I turned my eyes toward my Lord, at which he gave assent with a sign of pleasure to what my look of longing desired. When I was free to do what my mind wished, I went forward, standing over the creature whose previous words made me note them saying, Spirit, delay your greater business a while for me, you, in whom weeping ripens, that without which one cannot turn towards God. If you would have me obtain anything for you over there, where I come from, living, tell me who you are and why you have your backs turned upwards. And he to me, you will know why heaven turns our backs towards it. But first, Scylus quod ego fui successor Petri, know that I was Pope Adrian V, a successor of Peter, a fair river, the Lavnaga, flows down to the Gulf of Genoa between Sestri and Chiavari, and my people's title takes its name from it. For a little more than a month, I learnt how the great mantle weighs on him, who keeps it out of the mire, so much so that all other burdens seem light as feathers. Alas, my conversion was late, but when I was made pastor of Rome, then I decided the false life. I saw that the heart was not at peace there, nor could one climb higher in that life. So that love of this one was kindled in me until the moment I was a wholly avacarious, avacrocious, how do you say that word? Spirit, wretched, parted from God. Now, as you see here, I am punished for it. Avaricious, having or showing extreme greed for wealth or material gain. All right. Here, what avarice does is declared in the purgation of the downturned spirits, and the mount has no bitterer penalty, just as our eyes did not lift themselves up to the heights, but were fixed on earthly things. So here justice has sunk them towards the earth, just as avarice killed for love for all good, so that our efforts were lost. So here justice holds us fast, taken and abound by hands and feet. And as long as it is the good Lord's pleasure, we will lie here outstretched and unmoving. I had knelt and was about to speak, but he detected my reverence merely by listening. And as I began, he said, Why do you bend your knees? And I to him. My conscience pricked me for standing, knowing your high office. He answered, Straighten your legs and rise, brother. Do not err. I am a fellow servant of the one power with you and the others. If you ever understood the words of the holy angel, Neque nubent, there they neither marry nor are given in marriage, you will understand clearly why I say so. All right. I wish I'm going to save that whole thing. I know that's not going to, the whole thing's not going to fit. That's a bummer, though. I should pay for Twitter then. Now go. I do not wish you stay longer, since your remaining disturbs my weeping, by means of which I ripen what you spoke of. I have a niece, Algia, by name over there, who is good in herself. If only our house does not make her evil by example, and she is the only one left to me over there. There he, there the, okay, let me start over. The will fights ill against a finer will. So, to please him, but against my pleasure, I drew the unsaturated sponge from the water. I went on, and my leader went on also, through the free space along the rock, as you go by the wall close to the battlements, because those people who distill from their eyes drop by drop the evil that fills the whole world. Were too close to the edge for us to pass on the other side. Accursed be you, of rice, ancient she wolf, who, to satisfy your endless hunger, take more prey than any other beast. O heaven, by whose circling it appears to be believed, conditions down here are altered. When will one come by whose actions of rice will vanish? We journeyed on with slow meager. Is that supposed to be meager? But like a different spelling? Yeah, that's just meager with a different spelling. And I, paying attention to the spirits that I heard weeping piously and complaining, and by chance I heard one calling tearfully in front of us, Sweet Maria, like a woman in labor, and continuing to speak, you are so poverty stricken as can be seen by that inn where you laid down your sacred burden. Following that, I heard Cassius Fabricus, you wished to possess virtue in poverty rather than great riches with vice. These words were so pleasing to me that I moved forward to make contact with the spirit from whom they seemed to emerge. I'm going to save both of them. It'll probably get stricken. You can't have that stuff. It went on to speak of the gifts of Bishop Nicholas gave to the young girls to lead their youth towards honor. I said, O Spirit, who speaks of good so much, tell me who you are and why you alone repeat this praise of worthness. If I return to complete the short space of a life that flies to its end, you words will not be unrewarded. And I will tell you, not because I expect any comfort from over there, but because so much grace shines in you before your death. We're getting close to the end, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. And I think I'll actually do a rosary since we'll be done in like half an hour to 45 minutes. Or maybe even less than that. I was the root of the evil tree that overshadows all Christian countries, so that good fruit is rarely obtained there. But if Dewey, Lely, Ghent, and Burgess can, they will soon take revenge on it. And I beg this of him who judges all. I was called Hugh Coppet over there. From me, the Philips and the Louise derive by whom France is ruled of late. I was the son of a Paris butcher. When the line of ancient kings was ended, except for one who was clothed in the gray robe, I found the reins of the kingdom's government held tight in my hands, and had so much power in new acquisitions, and was so rich in friends that the widowed crown was placed on my son's head, with whom the Captain dynasty consecrated bones begin. Okay, King Robert the First. Before the dowry of Providence took away all sense of shame from my race, the line was worth little, but did little harm. Its rashness began there in force and fraud, and then to make amends, Ponthieu, Normandy, and Gascony were seized. Charles of Anjou came to Italy to make amends, made a victim of Conradin, and then sent St. Thomas Aquinas back to heaven to make amends. I see a time not far distant from now that will bring another Charles of Valois out of France, rendering him and his people better known. He comes alone, without an army, and with the lance of treachery Judas jousted with, and couches it so as to make the guts of Florence spill. From that he will gather sin and shame, not land, so much the more grave for him, because he treats such wrongs so lightly. I see the other Charles the Lame, who was once taken captive in his ship, selling his daughter Beatrice and haggling over her, as pirates do over other hostages. O avarice, who more can you do to us, since you have so attracted my tribe to you, that it does not care about its own flesh and blood? To make the ill that is past and come seem lesser, I see the flor de lis inter agnen anagi and Christ taken captive in the person of Boniface, his vicar. I see him mocked for a second time. I see the gall and vinegar renewed, and I see him killed between living thieves. I see the new Pilate, Philip IV, acting cruelly, that even this does not satisfy him, but he must carry his sails of greed lawlessly against the temple. O my Lord, when will I rejoice to see the sweet vengeance which hidden your anger forms in secret? Secrecy. Is that secret? What? Yeah. Okay. What was okay? What I was saying concerning the only bride of the Holy Spirit that made you turn toward me for explanation, such as the burden of all prayers, as long as daylight lasts, but when the night comes, we adopt a different strain instead. Then we rehearse the history of Dido's brother Pigamelon, whose insatiable lust for gold made him a traitor, thief, and parricide, and avaricious Midas misery that followed on his greed wish, for which he must always deride. I want to see what this killing of a parent. Hmm. Okay. Then each remembers foolish Achan, who stole the consecrated treasure, so that Joshua's anger still seems here to rend him. Then we accuse Sapphira and Ananias, her husband. We praise the kicks from the hooves that struck Helidorius, and the whole mount echoes with the infamy of Polyminister, who murdered Polydorus. Last of all, here we cry out, Crassius, tell us, since you know, what does gold taste like? Sometimes one speaks high and another low. now with greater or lesser force according to the impulse prompting us to speak. So I was not alone. Before, in speaking of the good, as we do by day, but no one else was raising his voice near here. We had already left him and were laboring to conquer the path, as far as it was in our power to do, when I felt the mountain tremble like something falling, at which a cold seized me, as it seizes him who goes to death. Surely Delios was not shaken as violently before Latona there made her nest give birth to the twin eyes of heaven. Then a shout went up on every side. So the master drew near me, saying, "Have no fear, while I am your guide." All were saying, "Gloria in excelsis Deo," glory to the God in the highest. From what I understood of those nearby, those words I could hear. We stood immobile, still as those shepherds who first heard that hymn, till it ceased when the quake ended. Then we took up our holy path again, gazing at the spirits lying on the ground, already returned to their usual laments. If my memory makes no mistake in this, no lack of knowledge ever assaulted me with such a desire to know, as I appeared to feel then, as I reflected and became of our haste. I was not keen to ask, nor could I see any cause for it there myself, so I went on, fearful and thoughtful. The natural thirst for knowledge that is never quenched, except by the water's grace, the woman of Samaria asked for, troubled me, and haste was driving me along the impeded path behind my leader. And I was grieved at the Spirit's just punishment. And behold, just as Luke writes that Christ, already risen from the mouth of the tomb, appeared to two women who were on the road, so a shade appeared to us and came on behind, gazing at the prostrate crowd at its feet. And we did not see it until it spoke, saying, "My brothers, God give you peace." We turned quickly, and Virgil gave the appropriate sign in reply, then said, "May the true court that holds me in eternal exile bring you in peace to the council of the blessed." As we went forward strongly, the Spirit said, "How is this? If you are shadows that God does not allow here above, who has escorted you this far as this? By his stairways?" My teacher said, "If you look at the marks this man carries on his forehead, and which the angel traced, you will see clearly that it is right for him to reign among the good. But since Lachius, she who spins night and day, are not yet drawn out of the thread fully that Clotho places the wind on the distaff, for each of us, his soul, which is sister to yours and mine, coming up here, could not come alone, since it does not understand as we do. So I was sent from the wide jaws of hell to guide him, and as far as my knowledge can lead, I will guide him upwards. But if you know, tell us why the mount shook so much before, and why everyone appeared to shout with one voice, right down to its soft base. So by the thread, the true needle's eye of my wish, and my thirst was less fierce through hope alone. That spirit began. The sacred rule of the mountain allows nothing without purpose or beyond what is customary. Here, for we are free from earthly changes. Here, what heaven accepts from its own self can operate as a cause. Nothing else, and rain, hail, snow, dew, and frost cannot fall higher than the brief stair with 3 steps. Thin or dense cloud does not appear, nor lightning, nor the rainbow, Iris, Thom, Thom, Thomas's daughter, who over there often changes zone. Dry vapors rise no higher than the top of the 3 steps I spoke of, where Peter's vicar has his feet. Perhaps it trembles down lower, more or less, because of the winds hidden underground. I do not know. It never trembles here. Here it quakes when some soul feels it. Here it quakes when some soul feels itself purged so that it can rise or set out to soar above, and such shouting follows it. The will alone gives evidence of the purging, seizing the soul completely free to change her covenant and helping her willing. True, she had will before, but the eagerness that divine justice creates for the punishment, where before there was eagerness for the sin, counters the will inhibiting it. And only now, I who have undergone this torment for 500 years and more, feel free will towards a better threshold. So you felt the earthquake and heard the pious souls around the mountain render praise to the Lord, that he might soon send them above. So he spoke to us, and since we enjoy the drink more, the greater the thirst we have, I could not convey how much he refreshed me. Oh, this is the last paragraph. Right at 30 minutes. There we go. And the wise leader said, I see the net that traps you here, and how one breaks through it, why the mountain quakes, and why you rejoice together at it. Now may I please you to tell me who you are, and let me learn from your words why you have been here so many centuries. The Spirit answered, when the good Titus, with the help of the heaven's king, avenged the wounds from which the blood that Judas sold issued, I was famous, with the name of poet that endures longest and gives most honor, but not yet of the faith. The song of my words was so sweet that Rome drew me from Talhos to herself, where I merited a myrtle crown for my forehead. The people there still call me Stagitus. I sang Thebes and then of great Achilles, but I fell by the wayside with the second burden. The sparks that warned me from the divine flame, which has kindled more than 1,000 fires, were the seeds of my poetic ardor. I talk of the Anadide that was a mother to me, and a poetic nurse without which I would not have been worth a drachm, and I would agree to endure one son more than I owe before coming out of exile, to have lived over there when Virgil was alive. These words made Virgil turn towards me with a silent look and said, be silent, but the virtue that wills is not all powerful, since laughter and tears follow the passion, from which they spring so closely that in the most truthful they obey the will least. I merely smiled like someone who signals, at which the shade fell silent and looked me in the eyes, where the soul was most present. And he said, so that great effort might achieve its aim, say why your face just now showed me a flash of laughter. Now I caught on both sides. One forces me to stay silent, and the other demands I speak, at which I sigh, and am understood by my master. And he says to me, do you not be afraid to speak, but speak and tell him what he asks with a great desire. At which I said, ancient spirit, perhaps you wonder at the laugh I gave, but I wish a great wonder to seize you. He who leads my vision on high is that Virgil from whom you derived the power to sing of men and gods. If you think there was any other reason for my laughter, set it aside as untrue, and believe that it was the words you spoke about him. He was already stooping to embrace my teacher's ankles, but Virgil said, brother, do not, since you are a shadow, and it is a shadow that you see, and Astasius rising. Now you can understand the depth of love that warms me towards you when I forget our nothingness and treat shadows as solid things. Okay, there we go. So we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll read some more.